Your Excellency Dr. Jürgen Mohan, Ambassador of Germany in Sri Lanka, Mrs. Malkanti Vikramasinghe, the Secretary to the Ministry of National Languages and Integration, Your Excellency Joseph Spiteri, Nuncio in Sri Lanka, Your Excellency the Norwegian Ambassador, Ms. A.C. Kandahasan, Ms. Kasanga Abedunsekar, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome this initiative, which I think is an urgent response to a national priority. It is indeed good to know that there is this productive collaboration between the ministry headed by my distinguished colleague, the Honorable Vasudeva Nayak, and the government of Germany, in this case, providing valuable support for this initiative through GIZ, the German Development Agency. I would also like to say a word about the structure of the project, which I consider to be exemplary. National integration is, of course, a very wide topic, and in dealing with matters such as this, I think nothing is more important than to prioritize what are the most important issues that need to be taken up for discussion, and more than discussion, concrete action. At the very outset, where do we begin? And what are the other matters that we can take up for consideration as we move along? So the identification of themes and substantive areas is of the greatest importance in terms of the practical utility of a project of this nature. And I have no doubt in my mind that the 7 areas that you have selected go to the very heart of the issues regarding national integration in our country today. I would like to make a few brief comments on each of the areas that you have chosen. The first is education. Nothing can be more important than that. More than as a politician, as an academic, as a professor of law, and as the former head of one of the largest universities in this country, I am acutely aware that this is the time when attitudes, ideas are formed in the minds of growing people. Now, I will relate to you a simple episode which will bring out the nature of the problem and what I consider to be a viable approach to a solution to that problem. Now, I was, as I said, for many years a teacher in the Faculty of Law in the University of Lahore, and that was at that time the only established Faculty of Law in the conventional university system of the country. So one would have thought that here was a unique opportunity for students speaking different languages, professing different religions, and coming from different cultural backgrounds to get to know each other and to live and work in harmony. What happened, however, was the opposite of that. They are under one roof, but they follow lectures separately, they examine separately, and what is more, even their social and cultural lives are entirely separate. They are all in one building, it's a large building, but there is hardly any opportunity for interaction. Now, this is because the Sinhala students do not speak Tamil students do not speak Sinhala, and neither group is very comfortable with the use of the English language. So that situation presents a vivid contrast with what we encountered when we were undergraduates here in this country. I went for my law degree first in the University of Derby and then in the University of Colombo before I proceeded to Oxford for my doctoral studies. And in those days we formed friendships on the basis of shared interests and values, and there was no excessive consciousness of racial identity. That was not uppermost in our minds. They did not occur to us, I'm singular, he's Tamil, he's Muslim, because we were all able to speak to each other, to know each other in a spontaneous environment. Unfortunately, that is not possible today. Now, when I was Vice Chancellor, I had this experience. So many of you are aware that at the end of the academic year, there is a function known as the going down dinner. That is a tradition in universities in this country. We have taken over that tradition from English universities. I had a group of students of one medium coming to meet me in the Vice Chancellor's office and inviting me to attend this dinner. So I said, of course, I will come with great pleasure. A little while later, a group of students in the other medium come to meet me, and they invite me to a similar but separate function. They are organizing the function separately. So in a tactful way, I asked them, then why is it necessary to do this? You have all finished your examination. You want to move to relax. You are looking forward to your vacation. So why don't you organize one function and enjoy yourselves together? The answer to that was, we would be happy to do that. We have nothing against the other group. There is no enmity or hostility of any kind. But as you said yourself, sir, they are against to relax. How can we relax? If we can't speak comfortably, we can't have a spontaneous conversation with the other group. So it is my view. Now, I am speaking not as a minister of the Sri Lankan government, this is my own view. I think the root of the problem is language. It is language that has divided us. It is language that has resulted in walls being constructed, stratifying and compartmentalizing our society. So what we need is a kind of linguistic and cultural cross-pollination. I think that is a need in our life. Because if you can't speak to the other person, initially there may not be hostility, but over time he appears to you to be a strange being. You don't know what he is thinking, you don't know what his feelings are. All of that is a close book to you. And human nature is such, Honorable Minister, Your Excellency, that in the fullness of time, that alienation ripens into something stronger. And that is, in my view, what has happened in our country. Now, in order to address this problem, His Excellency President Mahinda Rajapaksa has inaugurated a very opportune and pragmatic program in collaboration with the former President of India, Sri Abdul Kalam, who throughout his career has taken a very vigorous and lively interest in issues of this kind. I was myself present at that function and I addressed it again on that occasion. This is very important for people in one community to be able to talk to the other community, because at the end of the day, then they would then realize that there is no difference. So what is the difference between the hopes, the aspirations, the anxieties and the fears of a similar student and the Tamil student? There is no difference. Unfortunately, however, the system unwittingly accentuates the differences and does not focus adequately on the main areas that are shared in common between the two communities. However, to address that, you must start with young minds, growing minds, can't be done at our age. Our minds are fully formed, our attitudes are formed. There's hardly any resilience or flexibility. So if you're going to be successful, you have to start much earlier. So that is why I congratulate my colleague and the German ambassador on the choice of the 7 themes and their decision to put education right on top of the agenda. I think that is a very wise and appropriate choice. The second is equally important. It has to do with economic activity. Now again, if we are talking of young people and their initiation into economic activity, in my view, there are 2 principal issues. One is, again, I am drawing upon my experience as an educationist. When I was Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, I found, after Minister, that young people in the University of Colombo were very creative. They had lots of ideas. For example, one student devised a system for making fertilizer out of plant material in tanks in the Anuradhapura and Koronadu areas. Another student invented an electronic device to pluck coconuts on estates. Now, students who have these very useful ideas are confronted with 2 problems. One is they lack the monetary resources to commercially exploit that unity. You don't need some seed capital. They have the ideas, they have the creativity, but they don't have the money. Now, Inventors Commission can play a role in that regard. And the other is that they do not have access to the levers and the mechanisms of legal protection, the entire corpus of intellectual property law, patents, trademarks, copyrights, need some support in that area. Now these issues straddle the distinction between the Sinhala and the Tamil communities. This is a common problem. Both communities will benefit alike from a realistic resolution of these issues, and that is why the second matter is also entitled to priority. The third issue identified by the project is justice and the law. Now there again, the problems are overlapping and interlocking between the 2 communities. You can have impressive legal structures and remedies. However, it is important to ensure access to those mechanisms. That is why legal aid programs are so necessary. Otherwise, you have a dangerous situation which will engender cynicism. Theoretically, these remedies are available, but you cannot get the benefit of those remedies because you lack practical modalities of obtaining access to those remedies. That's very important. This is a problem that is not confined to any particular part of the country. Wherever you may focus your attention, whether it is Mahatara or Koronadu or Hambasata, or if you are thinking of Kilinochi or other people with action, this is a problem that needs to be addressed. So that's the third area to identify. The fourth area is the physical environment. Now it is the considered view of our government, and it is one of the conceptual underpinnings of the Mahinda Chintanaya that there is no conflict between economic development on one hand and the preservation of the environment on the other. Wherever says it is a precondition that any economic development to be sustainable must be accompanied by measures that are designed to prevent the degradation of the environment. That is part and parcel of our culture. His Excellency President Rajapaksa put it very thickly on one occasion. He said, I think the Honorable Vasundev Ranayakar has also spoken of this subject. I read some of his speeches in India. That is the challenge is to bring to the village the facilities and the opportunities that are available in the town and to introduce into the town some of the amenities of the village. The rivers, the streams, the trees, the greenery, all of that. So it is a happy blend of these two cultures, the urban and the rural cultures, that we are endeavoring to accomplish. So that is the fourth area. The fifth area is the social security in the social environment. Now, once again, there is absolutely no divide between the Sinhalese and the Tamils and the Muslims, not at all. Now again, permit me again to draw on my university experience. We found that there were students who made very rash decisions, in fact took their own lives. And when subsequently these matters were gone into, it was discovered that the problems were of a very trivial nature. So I was strongly reminded of this when I read in the newspaper yesterday of a great tragedy of a misunderstanding between a young boy and a young girl, and how the boy administered a poisoned sachet of milk to the girl, and when he went home, he was a medical student, he produced his own cyanide and injected the cyanide